connect. But today we'd be basically discussing around lactation wellness, lactation nutrition, but we call it as maternal nutrition through postpartum time. Right? Hmm. Okay. So generally the topic of interest around these particular subject would be trying to, think around appropriate nutrition during pregnancy basically helps the postpartum time, both for the new mom as well as for the baby, the infant. Right? We'd want to discuss a little more in depth about how daily nutrition for a lactation mother should be. Try to help her choose the right foods to nourish her always, because we feel कि आज खा लिया तो ठीक है and tomorrow is okay. That doesn't work, right? Because the body is going to be a supportive way of feeding the baby, and that's why there can be no compromise while it comes to maternal nutrition during lactation. Okay? We also need to understand the fact that we are going to nourish the newborn through the new mom, right? So we want to take care of, in case there is any infant allergy, any infant food sensitivity, probably we can try address that. The basic focus would be on overall well-being, not just trying to pick and choose which food is the wisest food to consume, right? I have a small case study just on a single slide, but I discuss it in length, and we'll take some more questions towards the end of the session. So here we go. Like when I want to say, it is all about planning, right? While we look at nutrition, it is all about planning, and this planning begins for the lactation phase right at the time while the mother is pregnant. And for her pregnancy to be great, the planning has to begin at least a few months in advance of her conception, right? So what we consider as a pre-conception nutrition to a pregnancy nutrition to a postpartum, that is the trimester 4 nutrition, all of it is important to make sure that the lactation phase becomes beautiful, healthy, and we have a healthy baby to support. Correct. We also need to understand that the programming that happens for the newborn happens well in womb life. Okay. So while the mother will start having particular preferences over particular foods, her choice, etc., will influence the way the baby learns its tastes, accepts newer food once it is out of the womb, and it is in the life where we start having complementary nutrition a part of its meal. Right. So while in the vivo, the maternal diet basically through the amniotic fluid influences the tastes that the baby learns. In this particular time at birth, particular preferences and indulgences of food acceptance really happen. And while we look at 0 to 6 months, though we say it is going to be an exclusively breastfeeding time, through the breast milk, the baby still tastes food that the mother is consuming, right? And beyond that, of course, the baby has learned several things in the womb and immediately postnatally period. It is going to, learn to eat newer flavors, accept better quantum and the better variety of food in days to come, while the breastfeeding is still on. So we basically talk about having or supporting a baby through breastfeeding up to say 1,000 days. So right from preconception to, as I mentioned, the fourth trimester being 1,000 days. The fetal nutrition and the programming of the same early in life will impact the health of this little baby in future days, in the days to come in later life. So while I look at this -9, that is the pregnancy time, whatever nourishment comes through the mother's eating probably influences how the growth gets altered or gets optimal, and it creates a healthy individual or it creates an individual which is diseased. And also the influence that happens is during the weaning phase, that is beyond the 6 months time of the baby's birth, while the baby is learning to add newer food to its diet. So all of which really makes a great difference in terms of how healthy a baby would be in days to come. So which is why we feel that importance of nutrition during lactation is a big concern, and it needs to be addressed early, right? We want to equip a new mom to take care of her own health needs initially, right? Every time we think once the baby is born, the entire focus actually shifts towards the baby, right? I mean, we would have experienced day in and out and in every family. Most of the time, it is all about to do with the what the baby is doing. Is the baby eating enough? Is the baby, shitting enough? Is the baby fine? Is it burping enough? Is it sleeping enough? So many things around the baby. And here, this little new mom sometimes She is managing a lot of things all by her own. She may not have enough support hands. She may have to, fend for her own food, prepare her own food, try and manage the cleaning and feeding and a lot many other things that a woman really manages at home. So here is the time while if she is not educated enough to be able to make sure that her health needs are taken care of, all the other activities probably will falter, right? So we want to enhance our capability of being able to take care of our infant, especially regarding breastfeeding, and also around introduction of the right complementary feeding pattern, which will handle her through the entire journey of her baby care. Right. We also want her to understand that in case she has to face any lactation related issues, there are a lot of solutions and she can call for help. Right. Trying to suffer through a lactation journey probably impacts a woman much more than we can ever think of. Okay. So it's important that she gets, quick help so that she is able to enjoy her lactation journey. While at the same time, we want to highlight the fact that she needs to prepare for a beautiful lactation journey. Sometimes the mother is wondering this will happen on its own. And if she is not keeping a particular set of things ready, she might really struggle through that phase. A lot of women feel it is, bad to ask for help. And that probably takes away a lot of energy and that leads to poor feeding ability by the mother, right? So we want to address this not just at the quantum and the nutrition that the food would provide, but also what else goes around the lactation journey. Now we know that, we can call that a normal weight gain during pregnancy could be anything around 11 to 16 kgs when it is a single baby. Okay. And this is specifically to do with when a mother is in normal weight when she conceives. Okay. Now there could be a change if she is conceiving and she is an underweight mom at that time. There is a good chance that she can gain above the 16 kgs, even up to 20 kgs. But if she is overweight, probably if she is overweight or obese category 1, there is just no need to come to even 11 kgs. So broadly, if we try and see, the first trimester does not really bring in a lot of weight to the mother. A lot of mothers are hiccuping during the early part of pregnancy. Most of them may be throwing. So retention of food sometimes is a challenge. So here we don't find really a big change in her weight, but maximum change actually starts coming in trimester 2, which we call as a honeymoon phase in pregnancy. Yeah, the mother has settled with the initial, hormonal hiccups that happen. She's able to eat well, she's able to move around well, the baby bump has not really come in so big, so she's able to maneuver herself much better and enjoy this phase better. So here is the time where we can address nutrition at a larger phase. Try and manage the nutrients right, try and see that the macro micronutrients are coming in the proper proportion, because when she goes to trimester 3, now whether she likes it or no, the baby is going to grow, the bump is going to come, the baby's speed at which it is growing is going to be magnificently high. And here is the time when there are a lot of structural changes that happen to the baby, and that's why the womb starts looking large, right? But here also the fact comes that the mother who started putting on weight now starts getting very conscious, and right in the third trimester, she starts worrying about, oh, how am I going to lose all this weight that has come in, right? So for those mothers, probably we must try and address that, when she delivers, she will at least deliver half the gained weight, okay? Because she is going to deliver the baby and the amniotic fluid and the placenta. All of it is going to get delivered, right? So that is going to be half the gained weight, and remaining weight that is there actually is in view of helping her through the lactation phase. She's going to lay down fat around her body, maybe on the abdomen, little on the thighs, maybe on the breast line, etc. These are areas where normally women will gain weight, right? So this weight basically come in view, and all these fat stores are going to be utilized during the lactation phase to produce energy for milk generation. So she need not get bothered in terms of trying to think weight loss very early, or rather in her late pregnancy or very early in her post-delivery phase. Now, having said that, if a mother is having a twin baby or a triplet baby, then even up to 25 kgs of weight gain seems normal. But however, it becomes pretty much worrisome because the mother needs to carry all that weight and she may not be prepared in terms of her physical strength to manage all that weight over her limbs. Yeah. So there is need to prepare not just in terms of what and how to eat, but at the same time to be able to manage the strength and flexibility that her body would have. Okay. So often, this, as I mentioned, getting back to that pre-pregnancy weight and shape worries a new mother's mind big time. And here is what she needs to relax. And she needs to relax basically to understand that breastfeeding will help in shaping her up. She also needs to understand that following an unbalanced diet probably will compromise not just her own health, but also the infant health. It's important for her to be educated towards better self nourishment. And also, in case, she needs to know if she's not able to manage, seek help. I have seen, a lot of people sit over it for a long time and then it's too late to start. However, it is when I have seen a lot of women coming to me, there is always scope to make corrections, but by then they should have not lost hope, because there are 101 people who will start advising her what to do, how to do, when to do. And probably not all of them will be talking the same language. Not all of them will be giving the same advice. There's a lot of contradiction that comes into as advice, and you need somebody to guide the right things, right? And that's where a learned person or an educated coach, an educated guide would be much more trying to, give the required nutritional guidance, required support for this new mom. Correct. So when we look at, as I mentioned, nutrition for the first 1,000 days is pretty much important. During the pregnancy stage, definitely there is a lot that we normally discuss around pregnancy stage, but the breastfeeding stage is the time when the mother needs a little additional calories, basically to be able to support her body's needs as well as the needs to generate milk, right? So here is when, through the breastfeeding phase, which begins with coming of the colostrum, is the time from where the mother will specifically need to understand what is happening to her, what is the lactation phase like, and how it is going to create a difference to uh, the amount of energy that the mother is going to provide the baby along with the nutrients. And when we call breast milk, it is live, live food for the baby, right? So it has got a lot of nutrients along with the bacteria, along with the immunity producing factors and the nourishment, which would make sure that the baby is able to accept, digest without any trouble, right? As going further, you see that the baby basically will be only having breast milk, right? So we don't want the mother to really uh, add on substances which could kind of work towards causing harm in her gut, providing the gut bacteria, which could probably be, difficult for the baby to manage if there is too much of different foods which will be started earlier in life, right? We also want to say that to keep the breastfeeding and feeding complementary feeds during and after the illness up to 2 years of age. Now, this we see that, when there is uh, I mean, in practice, when I have seen, there are people who start, even at 3 months, 4 months, they start giving additional foods, which the baby may find difficult to digest. And here is the time when the mother gets too much worked up because she's preparing food and she's also trying to take care of herself, the baby, and the baby's needs. So all of which can work, difficult for the mother. Again, as I mentioned, the baby's digestibility is not at par to try and digest something beyond breast milk initially, right? And going further up to 2 years of age, along with breastfeeding, complementary feeding should continue, which will make sure that the baby's developmental milestones reach at the right time. They are able to have better intelligence scores. They are better adaptable. They may not, harbor any infections with quick succession, and they become, more immune strength. So that's how we feel that, through this 1,000 days, we are able to create a baby who's more strong, who's more able to, uh, keep growing in healthily in years to come. So when we look at the latest recommendations that have come for the RDA, when we look at what is required for a pregnant mom, and sorry, a lactating mom, basically is considering a woman of the weight 55 to 65 kgs. Now, while I'm trying to calculate her requirement of protein and requirement of energy, it is important for me to know that the RDA may still be a little additional compared to the EAR, the estimated requirements, right? So there are two considerations that we need to understand. When we look at the estimated average requirements for Indians, and here when we look at the energy needs, it talks about 30 kilocalories per kg of body weight. Now imagine if the woman is 50 kgs or 65 kgs, and when we are calculating 30, so 60 into 3 becomes 1800 calories, right? But when we look at lactation, it becomes 39 kilocalories per kg. Sometimes it can be higher than what the mother really can manage to digest, because her movement is going to be around the baby. If she is already in the overweight category, taking that much portion of food sometimes may be difficult. Sometimes it may be probably adding to her weight than allowing her to utilize whatever she is stored during her pregnancy. So it is always same to start from where the mother is able to manage, what is her current eating pattern, calculate on that, and gradually step up the energy requirements. But definitely make sure that our protein needs are falling in place, right? So while we calculate the requirement of protein as 0.66 grams per kilogram, we need to have additional at least about 14 to 15 grams of proteins to make sure that her total allowance or total intake of proteins remains right. With looking up at calcium and iron needs, of course, during pregnancy, we make sure that there is a lot of need and we want to push it hard. But during the lactation phase, there may not be as much requirement. So here we look at, though the pregnancy requirements stay at 800 milligrams per deciliter, we are looking at lactation requirements being at 1000. But broadly, while calculating, we definitely make sure that both the times we are giving at least about 1000 milligrams per deciliter. Okay. Uh, Going around, we see that the requirements of iodine, etc., increase during the lactation phase. The requirements of vitamin A increase during the lactation phase. So these are, and also the requirement of vitamin C also increases during the lactation phase. So while planning their meals, if we are able to make sure that we are able to include the right quantity of foods which are providing these particular nutrients, we will be able to allow the woman to, stay in her nutrition, to manage her nutrition needs through the planned diets. Yeah. So to categorize, like putting the BMI category and putting two specific requirement tables here for macronutrients. For the 0 to 6 months, we calculate based on, I mean, this is a derived equation at Fitterfly. We realize that this is what worked best and this is what gave the best results. For the moms who are in the first 6 months post-delivery time, the requirement would be RDA plus 600 kilocalories, and bifurcation would be based on the activity levels, with carbohydrates contributing to 40 to 65% of total energy, the protein being 1 to 1.2 grams per kilograms present body weight. Okay. Now, why I say this is, there may be moms who would have gained too much weight during their pregnancy. There may be others who would have lost enough weight post delivery. So trying to keep a minimum of 63 grams as per RDA is the base minimum that should be provided through the diet. This will ensure that the mother is able to take care of her body needs and provide for the needs of the breast milk. Okay. The fat should be comprising at least from 20 to 35% of the total energy. Now, going into the next 6 months of lactation phase, the calculation is based on estimated requirements. Okay. And the total additional calories would be 520. Again, looking at the activity levels, overall the protein needs will decrease, but by and by the carbohydrate and the fat calories would remain the same. Second point that we need to really consider here is how hydrated a mother is, because this will ensure that she is able to generate enough. Okay. So main specific we need to know is the recommendation that the mother should be at least taking about 3 to 4 liters of fluid throughout the day while she is exclusively feeding her baby. Okay. Now, 3 to 4 liters of fluid does not mean that she takes a lot of water only. She can take the liquids which are going to be energizing. She can take liquids which probably refreshes her. It should can be tasty. It need not be all sugar laden fluids in itself, right? And it's also important here that most of the time, most often the lactating mom feels extremely thirsty while she is feeding the baby. This is an experience which most mothers have come back to me and said. And here, this is because there's a clear shift in the fluid balance in her body while she is nursing. So it's important for us to guide her to keep a fluid bottle next to her while she is feeding to ensure she remains hydrated. Right. Then the child is recommended to exclusively feed for 6 months at the breast, of course, by WHO recommendation. And hence, it's important to take adequate fluids throughout the day, especially to hydrate and make sure that quenching liquids come in during the lactation phase. Again, improving macros without improving the micros may not really take care of the nutritional needs. Okay. So when we look at maternal nutrition status with respect to breast milk nutrition concentration, uh, the nutrients which can cause problem is again vitamin A and iodine, which I mentioned. If the mother is not consuming enough of these, they will not be present in the breast milk, and which can compromise the baby's nutrition requirements for vitamin A and iodine. So again, one more fact, I don't know whether most of us know, but uh, the composition of breast milk changes on a day-to-day basis for a lactating mother, right? And this is why we are trying to consider all these nutrition demands in the right way to make sure that the breast milk composition is fit and apt for the baby's requirements on a routine day. So let's learn now what to eat and how to manage the time around eating right. While we look and we are all familiar with the food pyramid, what I want to insist here is that there is nothing that a lactating mother cannot eat or should not eat. It's only how we introduce foods to her at what stage post lactation time is necessary. Because, see, while the mother has delivered, say, via normal labor or via section labor, her movement is going to be around the baby, and until and unless she has passed enough gas the first time post delivery, she may have constipation issues, and which is why a lot of water based vegetables, a lot of fluids, and light to eat foods are tried to be a part of her, I mean, made to be a part of her menu. But at the same time, this same menu should not continue endlessly, because the mother starts sick and get sick and tired of eating only gourd vegetables, tasteless, curries and khichdis. Okay. We feel that, khichdi is the best food that can be given, but we give khichdi to a lot of people who aren't eating well, right? So mother should not be made to feel sick. Mother is supposed to enjoy her lactation journey, and that's why her food has to have a lot of variety, should have a lot of color, to make sure that she is able to feel happy while she is eating, and that happiness is going to create a lot of difference in the way she is able to generate milk. No? That joy probably takes care of keeping the prolactin oxytocin in place, and make sure that her milk generation remains effectively high. Okay. So, of course, this we need to see that there has to be enough grains, there has to be abundance of vegetables and fruits coming in our diet, anything around 2 to 4 servings during the entire day. The diet has to be rich in legumes and nuts, and of course, some amount coming from milk and milk products for women who are vegetarian. Non-vegetarian consumption can definitely begin within the first 10 days, 12 days post-delivery time. Egg is a good intake, allows for good quality protein to come in. Chicken in the form of soups, probably small gravies, shred chicken in salads, etc., is a good entry. women can try consuming fish. The best thing that the thing that she has to basically keep note of is anything that is going to be heavy, anything that is going to cause any kind of indigestion to her, probably will land up making her taking some medication, and which is what we want to avoid. Or any food which will try and cause any kind of abdominal discomfort probably will lead to take her, adding an antibiotic in her intake. So all of which we want to pause, and that is the specific care that she needs to take while she's trying to eat food, maybe 10 days, 12, 15 days post delivery time. Okay? She should be consuming her calcium supplement till as long as she is exclusively breastfeeding, and things which she can eat in sparing amounts could be, of course, red meats, a heavy amount of butter, maybe, a lot of pasta or bread, etc., which is only going to give calories and not other nutrition. Because these foods can become filler foods and, displace hunger, specifically, which can be, filled with the right type of food, which will give more protein, more calories, more vitamins and minerals through the diet. So while I'm trying to save 600 calories for the first 6 months additional and 520 calories for the next 6 months, we can still average it out depending on where the woman is starting, right? So anything between 300 to 500 kilocalories can be a start plan. We can make plus or minus depending on the mother's acceptance. The best remembering should be adequate vitamin A, C, and D should be a part of the meal, which can come through, of course, fortifying milk with vitamin D and with a lot of citrus fruits and vegetables in the diet. Uh, but here, one of the questions that always comes here is how much milk should a newborn take? I don't know whether we have all participants who can probably unmute and talk, but sometimes we found that, during the lactation phase, the mother feels that, 1 liter and a liter and a half of milk is necessary, and which can just, take all her eating in the wrong side, in the wrong way. Okay. So much of milk will just not allow her to eat anything else, which is going to be nutritionally dense and important to give the right kind of proteins and right kind of nutrients in her diet. She might not be able to take enough fiber. She may not be able to take quality protein coming in if she's filling herself with a lot of milk.
Swati, one
And mind
moment.
you,
Miss Vipin Singh, Mr. Vipin Singh, please mute yourself. It's very disturbing to the speaker. We request you to move. Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. I didn't know where the sound was coming from because my screen is on full screen. Okay, so we found, that excessive milk basically doesn't help in bringing more milk. So the right quantum is definitely necessary. Okay. So general focus that we try to run around lactation is try to make the woman realize that only natural sources should be a part of diet. Tearing food from packages may not really give the right nutrition, will probably add to the preservatives, will bring in more sodium. Probably it can be fried and kept for a long length of time. So they are all foods which do not have adequate nutrition. Okay. Also, the fact is maintaining the correct fluid balance is necessary. The mother should not get constipated, should not have dark urine because that will start compromising the amount of milk that she generates. Uh, the more constipated she is, the less she will eat and she will start feeling tired. So there are repercussions for anything that could displace fluids or it could reduce the fluid intake. Again, proteins are a daily day consumption calculation. So it is not that if I eat protein right on one day, I'm okay to, allow myself to not eat proteins enough on the next day or the third day. It's important that any calculation that we are doing is on a daily day basis. So when I say around 63 grams of protein per day is required, it means that I need to plan my meal properly because as we know, India is uh, a carb-rich diet country in itself. So if we don't plan enough proteins, it may be difficult to meet the protein needs. Often we start using a supplement However, when I use a supplement, the nutrients coming from the supplement does not create a difference in the way uh, the composition of milk would change. So, which is why eating the right food and absorbing, utilizing it will be most important for making a difference to how the composition of milk can be balanced. Yeah. Again, last thing, that is energy for work is important. So it's necessary that the mother eats at regular hours. Okay. Often I have found that, mothers who are feeding their babies who have less help available probably eat with a long gap between their meals. Sometimes they are eating in succession, and often they may be eating at odd hours, late in the night when they feel now the baby is sleeping, I have time to eat. Or maybe eating breakfast too late, which causes a lot of acidity, and then probably they are not able to eat well because of the acidity. So it's important that if they are able to, at least eat at a gap of say 3 to 3.5 hours, and if there is some thought behind how her diet plan should be, it will allow her to stay energetic to be able to manage all the work that she has in store for her. Now, when we look at proteins, of course, these pictures look very inviting, and I'm sure all of us know all these foods are protein rich. Uh, Coming to know that while we are wanting to eat beans, or if we are wanting to add pulses, it is best to sprout them because the digestibility improves. There's better B complex and C availability from those foods when they are sprouted. So trying to give an idea that these foods can be kept ready for timings when she is not able to cook is quite important. Okay. She should be able to understand she can choose from a wide variety of food. Okay. So if she has a possibility of eating a full meal, that is a roti, dal, chawal, sabzi, and a liquid, maybe a chas or some salad, it's going to be great. But however, if she feels that, eating that portion does not work well for her, she can eat or, part her meals in a way that there is roti sabzi at one time and the next meal can have the remaining part, which will just make sure that she's having a balanced nutrition overall through the length of the day, not just at one meal at a time. Trying to include some kind of smoothies or some vegetable and fruit juices or probably punches will allow her to, quickly just mix it and drink it, because taking too much time out to create a lot of other stuff may be a little challenging. Keeping small bites of, energy dense foods, maybe thick shakes, things like chicky or maybe dry fruits at handy will allow her to not miss or create long gaps between her food. And often, mothers ask whether a sandwich is a good meal. So I tried to put this picture, but I wanted to show a picture which layers that there is enough substance within the sandwich, not just two slices of bread with some chutney or some butter or maybe some jam there. It's important to make it healthier so that the cereal portion from the bread is okay to consume, but there is a lot of other nutrient-rich food and fiber coming in from that sandwich. We also need to know that over years, a lot of cultural requirements would have said, a lactation diet should include foods which will enhance milk production. However, there is nothing like, if you eat in jeera, you will start having a lot of milk on itself. There is a process. Whatever you eat has to get digested, and eventually it is going to help. And it's not that just by eating a particular food, there is going to be more milk. Eventually, the baby has to suck, or the mother has to express to ensure that uh, there is adequacy. So it's not all about bringing milk in the breast, but it is all also about making sure that it gets expressed and allows for more milk to get generated. Because the lactation or the physiology of milk generation is all about, works on a principle of demand and supply. So more the milk is taken out of the breast, more will it produce in the breast. So with this concept, it also goes to say that if a mother is definitely, continuing her breastfeeding, she will not fall short of milk ever. If she's trying to, give the baby either expressed from the breast or maybe directly feed the baby at the breast, there is going to be no dearth of milk. Just the care that is necessary is she shouldn't be, extremely tired. She should feed on demand for the baby, and she should make sure that she remains hydrated and gets adequate sleep. These are a few factors which probably influence big time the way the milk gets produced. Okay. So these are, of course, galactogogues or ages. Probably my dadi and her dadi all would have tried to use these foods within the diet of a lactation mom, and they have their own benefits. I am not saying that these won't help, but the process has to be in place. Just by eating a particular food, there is no 100% guarantee that there is going to be more milk. Okay? However, we see that adequate dry fruit coming in, some satavari, fresh and dry coconut, khaskhas, bajri cereal in itself, some amount of garlic, good amount of jeera, and fresh methi have been known to create a difference in the way the mother is able to, generate milk. We also want to address infant allergies and food sensitivities. We've seen, some mothers may feel that their baby, while they feed, they start having a lot of loose motions, and they feel that the baby is not able to tolerate milk. Now, however, when we look at breast milk, it is going to be the best thing that we can ever give the baby. But there are some babies who may be able to tolerate lesser than the quantum of milk which the mother is trying to push. So, splitting meals for the baby is a good way of helping the baby be able to digest the milk that it's taking. We cannot stop breast milk because any formula also eventually is going to give a similar portion. Lactose-free formulas are available, but I am unsure that how many babies really are lactose intolerant. Usually, by giving smaller portions, the baby outgrows sensitivities, which we found. Okay. So it's only that if you feel genuinely that, while you're eating, say, a particular food and the baby is trying to show some allergic response to that, maybe some, itching or probably burping or some aches, etc., maybe reduce the quantum of food initially. And if required, stop it for a while, but reintroduce in your diet to make sure that the baby is learning. Yeah.
Very
Should I go on? Is somebody wanting to say something? I'm hearing some sounds.
mute yourself. Just go ahead.
Nazneen ma'am, are you asking something?
Go ahead, Swati.
Yeah. So besides that, substance, as in any kind of alcohol or smoking or taking any kind of substance, maybe medications which may not be same to have, which may pass through the milk to the baby, all of which needs good consideration. It's better avoided than resorted to. And also sometimes heavy to digest foods probably can be taken in very small portions or avoided if you feel that the baby is not able to tolerate. And how do you help yourself to make that possible is, just love yourself. And you will realize that, the interest of doing all the things which probably can harm you and your baby automatically just vanishes. Okay. Okay. So ideal need for what we call as a lactation plan, of course, a lot of things that I really spoke behind is again trying to think on what to eat and how much. It cannot be huge portions of ghee and a large portion of milk and maybe, a lot of amount of cereals and porridges and a lot of satavari. That doesn't make a lactation diet. Okay. What makes a lactation diet is again something which is close to what everybody eats, because lactation is not a disease or it is not a condition which is causing any harm. It is a stage in a woman's life cycle. Okay. So we are trying to help her address that stage in life cycle where her needs are a little additional. And by the type of food that she eats, she is able to do a lot of good to herself and her baby. Right. So what to drink, how and what thing hydrates her enough, she is able to understand better. Okay. But a small pinch of advice that would go here is that trying to take anything that is carbonated or something which has got a lot of sugar and repeatedly taking those things as hydration may not work in her favor. Okay. Again, when to eat, we decided that, eating at least at a gap of 3 to 3.5 hours makes it good for her to, have enough energy and be able to digest whatever she consumes. There is a need to, tell her to focus on rest and good sleep. Okay. There are moms who probably at the end of 15 days come back to me and they have, cried to say that, ma'am, I haven't slept the last 3 days. My baby is continuously up in the night and it's very difficult for me. Imagine the plight of that mother. Okay, where is she going to think about eating right? She is just trying to think when somebody is able to take or handhold her baby a bit so that she can grab that little sleep. Right? So for such moms, we say that it is good to ask help. We feel that, मैं तो सब कर जाऊंगी, ऐसा नहीं होता है. There is no magic that we are able to do. It is always good to seek some help to make sure that you are not compromised yourself. You don't compromise on your food, sleep, rest because you have delivered, right? It's something that you invited and you want to be happy about. Okay, you don't want to struggle through your lactation, correct? So enough sleep will ensure that, the melatonin works towards detoxification. Your body does not have a lot of toxins within, and you're able to be able to eat with much more joy, right? It's important to feel fresh. A stressed mother will not be able to eat well, neither sleep well, neither take care of her baby well, right? So when we look at being a nutritionist, it's not all about, how and what and when to eat. It is all about being in close connect with the new mom, allowing and reading between the lines that she is trying to share with you, and have effective counseling for her, because trying to tell her eat one more plate of this, that, and the other does not really solve her problem. But trying to make her understand that if you would have slept 2 more hours, you would have eaten something better, you would have been able to make something better, and probably you would have enjoyed it better, is much more necessary. This is what I have seen during the lactation phase and the support that a lactating mom really requires. Okay. So again, as I mentioned lower down, how I eat, how I sleep, and how I am able to interact and mingle with people creates a lot of difference for a lactating mom. Okay. So by and by, if she is given that help, she will, feel within that gratitude, and that will enhance her ability to, ask for help and be supported both. Okay. So let's pledge to, make our Bharat a healthier planet through all this advice that we can really give. Okay. So when I'm looking at these first 1,000 days where I feel that I may be able to participate and support these new moms, because I see that trying to give the right nutrition to the mom makes it 10 times more likely. I mean, they are 10 times more likely to overcome most of illness, the threatening child diseases which the baby can harbor. We've seen that, these babies are able to have better grades in school. We are also able to see that these individuals become healthy adults and they become better wage earners by, say, close to 21% than the other moms. And the best smile comes in when these adults or healthier adults from these babies probably also have healthier families in later life to come. So, while we talk at nutrition in pregnancy, it is an intergenerational nutrition thing that you're trying to address. So, if one mother is probably well nourished and healthier, the next 3 generations are going to be benefiting from the same. So imagine if a mother contracts diabetes in her pregnancy, the next 3 generations are going to bear a problem because of this mother getting diabetic in her pregnancy. So, I mean, trying to address something at a critical time takes care of the health of the coming generations on the planet. So that's where I feel, okay, if we are all together in it and if we are able to make a difference, we must, isn't it? So here one small case study in case somebody has questions prior to I getting here, we'd be happy to take before I discuss this.
I think you finish it, then we will take the questions.
Perfect. Perfect. So here just one small case that I want to discuss. This was a lady who joined me actually when she was She contracted diabetes during her pregnancy in her 8th month, and she was 61 kgs then, with a height of 5 feet, age of 28 years, and already the baby weight was around 3 kgs. So, given the fact that she had at least another 2 months to go before she delivers, we didn't want to risk that the baby becomes too large in the womb. So we wanted to make sure that her nutrition is right, but at the same time, she does not gain additional weight, nor there is too much of weight gain for the baby. Though we can't stop major weight gain happening around, but there was a possibility of being able to curtail the wrong entries of food, give her the right combinations of protein and carbohydrate to make sure that the energy coming is just right. Because we tried to change habits around odd hour eating to make a difference to her late night eating, made sure that her hydration improves, all of which probably allowing her to eat a balanced plate, forward backward foods, trying to give her an idea of uh, making sure that when she eats, she is trying to think that this is going to help her and her baby, because she had a traumatic delivery, and which we really wanted to address. So, trying to give her certain stress relief through habit formation, eating mindfully, a little meditation with some box breathing exercises, etc., really made a lot of difference to her health. And she was able to generate enough milk despite all the trauma and despite the breastfeeding worries she did really have. So, not that I want to show entire calculation of what and how much was prescribed to her, but broadly, what the RDA and the what ER recommendations are were definitely followed, and she was able to successfully breastfeed her baby. She was very happy when she was at post 3 months post delivery, when she felt started feeling better last when I spoke to her. So, of course, we can go for more questions.
Yeah, thank you, Swati, for that wonderful talk or the journey throughout the first 1,000 days on the lactation. If there are questions in the chat box, Nazneen, you can take it. Some questions if there are, otherwise we can just discuss.
Yeah.
So Swati, considering your experience, any other problems have you come across counseling these mothers for lactation techniques or other problems like inverted nipples and unable to feed and fear of holding the baby in the right position and the technique of
Yes, very many. Actually, today is the topic that
so
I
many
was
things are
given
there,
was
but
more around nutrition. So I didn't
yeah.
want to get into breastfeeding techniques and management of
No,
breastfeeding
while we are taking
problems.
questions, we can just discuss few problems so that the participants gets few ideas how to counsel. Everybody is not exposed to the lactation management person, and we the dietitians are all rounder counselors, so we do
Yes,
come across these questions in our day-to-day practice. So I just want you to throw some
true,
light on.
true, true. So, maximum number of very early queries that come around lactation care would be that the mother is not able to latch well, and mother is not able to latch because she feels that her nipples are flat. And if she is trying to latch and probably she is not latching right, there could be, cut, bruised nipples, sometimes bleeding nipples, which could be really painful for the mother to continue her breastfeeding. Right. So here is when, this mother probably is in tatters. She feels that she wants to feed her baby and she is not able to because she is really in pain. So the care needs to be more around not trying to tell her now you eat this, that, and the other to bring more milk, but the care here is to help her make sure that the pain is controlled by using, some ice which allows to numb the nipples while she's trying to express. Probably make sure that she learns to latch right, give her the technique of holding the baby in a cross cradle hold. So she is supporting herself, having a good backrest, holding the baby in a way that baby is turned completely towards her side, getting a correct direct latch into the mouth, making sure that the baby is opening the mouth wide prior to the latch, actually establishing a latch, which makes sure that the baby doesn't nipple suck. More the nipple sucking, more the pain on the nipple would be. So, till the mother is, getting or learning this right technique, she will need support for every feed. And we cannot try and call her into clinic each time, but this needs to happen very early once she's delivered. Before she is discharged, it is important to make sure that she is learning the latching before she goes home. And this is where, often we are able to not address this well. And some mothers, at the end of 4 days, at the end of 5 days, probably land up into trouble. Second thing that we found is some moms come with an engorged breast and then they're worried how to manage that. Now, this engorgement basically is because either she is not latching the baby on time or she is not expressing enough, because once the milk starts coming in, the body does not realize how much is required. Initially, it just starts surging. The prolactin brings in a lot of milk in the breast. And once that is happening, if the mother does not try and express or try and feed the baby in a right duration, there will be milk in both the breasts which is going to stay. And if it is staying for too long, then the breast is going to get tight. This tightness can be very painful. You can feel that your breasts have become like a stone. And once it is so hard, expressing also becomes difficult. So here, the mother should know how to, use a warm compress so that there is a little suppleness that comes into the breast. How she should express manually to make sure she doesn't hurt herself while she is expressing. How she can express and store that milk if it is required. Because imagine if she already has a bad breast or nipple, how will she be able to continue expressing and feeding with that problem? So she needs to, express in such a way that she can use that milk. So all of these small things, the storage, how she can manage the storage, how long can she keep, at least express milk can stay in room temperature good 4 to 6 hours. Okay. And if it is in a controlled temperature, it can stay for a little longer as well, because milk is live food, right? So it will not get spoiled immediately. And if she needs to express and keep for a longer time, she can refrigerate and use a water bath to bring back the milk to room temperature before she feeds. So there's a lot of way in which, the mother can be helped. But the point is, the mother feels that breast hard ho gaya, to main kuch nahi kar sakti hu, it's paining, I wouldn't express. And that's where, she may land up in an abscess in the breast. If she doesn't know this, she will go through the pain and go through further pain because that abscess needs to be removed. It becomes, a surgical process. So had she known that she needs to just express, it would be so nice for her to, follow the instruction well in advance. So very small tips
Yeah.
which, a mother can be given during her pregnancy phase, during the last or rather the third trimester. It really works for a new mom, to take care of, smaller things which she can, very easily avoid getting into trouble, at least with the lactation issues per se.
Very
Yes. Thank you
nicely
so much,
answered,
Swati.
Swati. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a question by Vaidehi, and Vaidehi is asking that what is your thought on the secretion between the right and the left side milk?
So,
It,
if I understand this question right, are you trying to say that there could be a difference in the way the right and the left breast generate milk? If that is the question, it can sometimes
yes.
happen, but it also could be, the reason could be that, there is a preference of the breast that the baby may have. So if the mother feels that, she is easy with holding the baby in her right hand and trying to feed through her right breast, probably she'll end up, getting the baby to nurse more on the right hand side. And that's where the left side probably gets little more engorged and remains hard. And as I mentioned, more the milk that gets expressed, there is going to be more amount that will get generated. Right. So if you feel that that is the reason, then there is a chance that, one breast may generate more compared to the other. But broadly, there is if both the breasts are adequately emptied, there is going to be adequate generation on both the sides.
Very nicely answered, Swati. That also is also her second question, wherein I think you already answered, is that there are some babies who are very comfortable on one side and not ready to latch on to the other. So I think you've answered that already. And
So
so
one
are
more
there?
thing, Nazreen, I want to say here is, in such cases, once the baby has developed the preference of one side, probably change in position will allow the baby to still turn on that side to nurse. Right? For example, if I'm feeding the baby on my right breast in a cross cradle hold, and the baby is used to turning on its left side while it is latching at the breast, I can use a football position so that the baby still turns on the left side while I'm feeding on the next breast. So there is this kind of a facility or this kind of an option available for making sure that the baby definitely nurses on both the breasts. It's just for us to understand why this baby is behaving funny.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks. Any other questions, audience? You all can type in your questions. In the meanwhile, Swaleha, your question is this video saved in the website? Yes, it will be available on all the YouTube channels of BNA Live. We'll also be sharing a link post this event to all the people who have registered on all the social media sites. So this, you can view this video again. You can give it to all the patients. You can show it to your patients and the caregivers as well. Yeah, great. Ma'am, any comments? Salome ma'am? And Swati's given a beautiful presentation. She's covered all boxes, but some expert comments from you.
Yeah, actually, I already mentioned she has definitely covered all the aspect and taken us through the entire journey of breastfeeding and even the 1,000 days importance of nutrition. And I think as a practicing dietitians, we must ponder and look into what the client we are seeing and what are the needs of that particular person. And with respect to that, we must tell them, like she explained the GDM case. So it is all the GDM cases are different. Some will come at the earlier 21 weeks, some will come at the later weeks. Some will have a higher baby weight, fetal weight, some will have a lower fetal weight. And that depends on the number of pregnancies mother has had and the age of the mother. So there are various aspects we need to look into. So assessment is very important when we are counseling these mothers both for lactations and the problems coming up with the lactation and of course the first 6 months and the later 6 months. She explained the EAR and RDA. So I think we must keep it in mind and see that optimum requirement is met for all the mothers, for because it's very difficult. We say 63 grams of protein or whatever is the requirement calculated to meet the requirement of the mother, and we miss out on so many meals without protein. Like all the meals should have a protein, at least 8 grams or 10 grams, so that major meals can have 15 grams, so that we meet the requirement of the protein and other macronutrients too for the growth. And he rightly said, so recently I was reading an article where they said, not if we look into mother's nutrition and the adolescent girls' nutrition, that is preconception and much younger age, we will make the difference for next 10 generations to make our India healthier. So I think we as a nutritionist should look into this and nourish them right at the age of 9 when they start menarche, so that when they become preconception and then delivery, they will have a better reproductive health and of course the better offspring. So thank you very much, Swati and
Yeah,
Naz.
thank you so much.
Thank
lovely
you.
conclusion to whatever we discussed. Thank you so much, Salomina.
Yeah, we welcome you for being alive, and I thank you for accepting our invite. We really wanted to do this topic for this year's uh, series. Thank you for joining us.
Lovely.
In fact,
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah, I think just on your concluding note, I think Swati also gave this beautiful, the Indian flags, and she gave this vision. So I think
Yes.
that's a very important vision. And thank you so much, Swati. Thank you, Mr. Gandhi, the entire team of BNA Life, Nutritionists, and Salome ma'am. We are missing Dr. Geeta and Richa today, but this has been a wonderful lecture, and we've had a lot of audience, very enthusiastic. So thank you all for being here, and please like our social media pages. Vishaka, I request you to kindly mail all the participants a link of this recording, so that once they go and like on the pages, they'll also get regular updates. So with that, thank you so much. It's a festive month, so enjoy yourselves and stay safe, and thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care, ma'am. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.